Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm so happy. And I mean, like, I can just like jump out of my seat. I'm so happy to be talking to my dear friend Mikki today. But before we start, let's just get ourselves grounded. Let's just do those big, deep breaths that you know I love to do. So we're going to inhale for 4 counts and inhale love. And then we're going to hold the breath for 4 counts. And then we're going to exhale. Ha. But when you exhale the ha, just let everything go. Exhale energy. So inhale love, hold the breath, and just see that love just through every cell of your body. And exhale ha. Okay, let's go. Deep inhale. Hold your breath. Exhale ha. Inhale love, deep breath. Hold your breath. Exhale energy. Ha. Inhale love. Hold your breath. Smile. Exhale energy. Ooh. Okay. So I'm ready. I'm ready to have this conversation. And I'm actually ready to have it at this time because the woman that you're going to meet in a minute is a woman who she walks the talk of what we've been talking about now for 8 segments. And she is that person, the talk of we have to connect to our authentic self. And then when we connect to our authentic self, that's what helps us build communities. That's what helps us be in communities. It's about sharing our knowledge, sharing our heart, sharing our wisdom. Trust me, Mikki walks that walk. It's about moving our bodies. It's about dancing. It's about building immune systems that keep us healthy and alive and flowing. That's what Mikki is. It's about reinventing. And I'm going to tell you, when I say that this woman has 9 lives, it's probably more like 19 lives because she started out as a professional dancer and then she became a caterer and she actually wrote a cookbook that was very successful. Then she went on to be a business coach and then she got into the fitness industry and she was a wellness entrepreneur. And she's a Vistage cheerleader, which for you young people out here, you may not know what that means, but trust me, it's a really big deal. And then she's a sought after international and national Hall of Fame motivational speaker. Another really big deal. And she's going to tell you her story about that one. So as you can see, this woman, she just keeps reinventing herself. But life threw Mikki a curveball. And it was that curveball that in those days would have said that she reinvented herself. And she pivoted. And what I'm going to say is that today, right now, in this moment, there are over 25 million people that are out of work. And likely, many of these jobs are not coming back. So right now, people have to be inspired. They have to be inspired. They have to be filled with knowledge and fill their toolbox to understand how to pivot, how to reinvent themselves. Because this pandemic has thrown all of us a very big and a very scary curveball. So now I want to introduce to you Mikki Williams. She is an entrepreneur extraordinaire, a pivoteur extraordinaire. She is somebody who I say she's fierce, she's force, she's fierce, she's got force, and she's got a lot of femininity and also a lot of humor. And what we learned back to laugh, it actually builds your immune system. It actually gives you something good. It fills you up. And one thing I know about Mikki, she's made me laugh and cry, actually, from the very first time I ever heard her speak, which was over 30 years ago. So now I want to introduce to you my very dear, fabulous, fierce friend, Mikki Williams.
Lavinia, I got to go find that person you were talking about. Wait a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, wait. I have to also say one other thing. Mikki runs and creates. Right now, she has an unbelievable, successful professional speaker school, which, by the way, I took her course 8 years ago. And I also did business consulting with her. So just to be totally transparent, I was definitely a little nervous today. Like, oh my God, my teacher, my mentor, like she's the one I'm having a conversation with. Like, I got to make sure my shit is good. So Mikki, I love you. And I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you.
Oh, Lavinia, there's nobody more authentic than you, girl. I mean, that alone, people listening to you have to be inspired by your authenticity. It's just who you are. And that's what I've always loved about you. And so I'm excited to have a conversation with you today and to inspire some people, because you just said some things that are so relevant. And I feel like I've been there and done that. And maybe through my story, some people will have a little bit of hope and a little bit of inspiration that despite the circumstances that are surrounding them, they can still get back up and really be happy and successful.
Well, let's just start with your story. Like, start with your story, share with us, and like thread through the pivots through your personal journey.
Yeah, I love that they've come up with this word pivot, and it used to be reinvention. I don't know how many versions they have for what it is. I know when I was doing my TED Talk and they asked me to, excuse me, to kind of sum up my life story. I mean, how does one sum up their life story? I'll do my best in the time we have. I grew up with a single mom in the Bronx, New York, and I always dreamed of going to an Ivy-covered campus and meeting the man of my dreams, get married, move to the suburbs, raise 1.2 children, and live happily ever after. I went to Ithaca College, which I just told you, I just did a seminar for them an hour ago, and what an honor to be back at your alma mater and talk to the students there. And I met a gentleman from Cornell University who came from a little town in Pennsylvania, and that was the love of my life. We got married and planned to have 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl, and live happily ever after. And for the 7 years we were married, that was the case. We gave birth to our son, Jason, who you know very well. And when Gabe was 29, he was tragically killed in a car accident. Jason was 2, and I was 29, and there was no money. There was no secondary plan, no contingency. There was nothing. And I looked at my life and I said, well, I was a gym teacher and I was a professional dancer, and that's it. What do I got? I got nothing. And then I just kind of thought, well, I used to say, Lavinia, you'll appreciate this. When people would interview me, I used to say, well, I had no choice. I had a son. I had to make a living for us. And one day somebody said to me on a very type of interview like this, they said, yeah, you had a choice. You could have enjoyed your biggest pity party and no one would have faulted you for it because you had as you say, a big curve.
Yeah.
But your choice was to do whatever you had to do to make a living for you and Jason. So I looked at what I loved and what I thought I was good at. And I was a good dancer. And I thought, okay, I'll teach dance. And so for anybody old enough to remember boom boxes, my boom box, and I'd go to the local Knights of Columbus Hall and Kiwanis and Rotary. And I started teaching dance, which emerged into one of the most successful dance schools in the country. And my students were everybody from Martha Stewart to Joanne Woodward and the choreographer of Wicked, Wayne Salento. And so I trained a lot of great people and met some really incredible people. And then somebody said to me, well, you're a great cook. Why don't you start a catering business? I said, well, I don't know anything about business. Oh, come on, it can't be that hard. And the next thing you know, I had a catering business with Martha, and I started in 1978. She just went a little further than I did. And that was called your favorite name, Lavinia, right? The Happy Cooker.
Happy Cooker. But we have to tell them why that.
Well, we'll come back to that. And then it was just one business, then I started. I guess I found out that I was an entrepreneur. I didn't know what the word was. I didn't wake up one day and said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, but I guess I was. And I didn't have an MBA. I didn't have any business background. I just made a lot of mistakes and learned from all of them and kept going. And I guess one of the things that's always, two things that's fueled me. One, the old cliche, what's the worst thing that can happen? I already had the worst thing that can happen. So I became a risk taker extraordinaire. The fear that most people have, that became a moot point. And also I had a single mom who used to tell me that I could do anything, be who I am, that I was enough. And that's stayed with me my whole life. And I have been as flamboyant as I am today as I was at 4 years old. I've never met a sequin I didn't like, although I'm not wearing it today.
I love that.
And so, I've just always been who I am. And I think authenticity, you can't fake it. People know who you are, and that resonates. And so the careers kept going. I'd sell the business. I'd do, I've done everything. I've been a C Corp, an S Corp, a partnership, but I've dissolved a business, you name it, I've done it, which gives me probably my credibility as a Vistage chair. But along the way, there was a retail store, there was a management consulting firm, there was a cruise placement travel agency. There was a multi-level marketing products company. I mean, you name it. And then 1987 was the first time I didn't know what was next. I've always known what was next. And I sold the health club. I did well. I took a year off and I thought, I have no idea. So I went back to college to get my master's degree thinking I wanted to open. I don't know if you even know this story. It was when spas were opening on the West Coast. And that was the beginning of spa. And I thought, that's it. I should open a spa on the East Coast. Well, I don't know anything about a spa, but look, I was in fitness. I was in food service. What don't I know? I don't know the first thing about running a destination spa. So I go back to college to get my master's in hospitality industry. They give me half my master's for life experience because I've already run a catering business and a wellness center.
Right.
And I start dabbling at hotels to see if I like it. And I love the glamour of hotels, but I had 4 objectives. I wanted to travel, I wanted glamour, I wanted people, and I wanted money. Those were my 4 objectives. And hotels had 3 of them, but they didn't have 4. So I networked and I asked people in the hotel industry, well, what else you do? And they say, well, we book meetings. I said, well, what is that? That's a meeting planner. So I went to Washington, D.C. and got certified as a meeting planner. And then I'm planning meetings and I'm going, this is very behind the scenes. I am not a behind the scenes person. No. I said to the meeting planners, well, what else do you do besides book meetings? Well, we hire speakers. Well, what do you mean? I was a speaker when I was in the fitness industry. I was a speaker when I was in the food. No, you were an industry speaker. I said, well, what's the difference? Well, we hire professional speakers. They get paid. No, people get paid to give speeches. All of a sudden there was travel, there was people, there was glamour, and there was money. And here I am 33 years later. And you know the rest of the story. I just built the career, and I built all of them on no training, no skills, just kind of jumping in and learning it. So for the people out there right now who are jobless and think, you got to think, what do you love? What do you love to do? What's your hobby? What are you good at? Are you good with your hands? Are you good at building things? Are you good at collecting things? Because I'm the walking case scenario of no skills and success in spite of myself, I guess. And that's, I guess, the whole story, or most of it, right?
I love that story. I just love it. I mean, of course, the sad part of it is sad, but the way that you just adapted and the way that you found a flow and the way that you were able to just constantly connect to your authentic self and be able to not have fear, not get paralyzed, like your friend said, not get into the pity party, but to be able to have some clarity. So why don't you take us through what would maybe be the 3 or 4 steps from a mindset, the person, what kind of mindset they need, right into actually planning what that might, the steps that they need to take. And then even after that, what steps they need to sort of move forward.
What's so interesting about that question, Lavinia, is when I said in 1987, when I sold the last business and I had no idea what was next, I came up with something that led me to my career. It's not a very formalized plan. It was just something I did and it worked. I took a piece of paper and I divided it in half. On the left side of the paper, I said, I'm going to list all my talents, skills, hobbies, interests, passions, etc. Just free form the entire list of those things. On the right side of the paper, I said, well, if I don't know what I want to do next, what are the objectives I'd like that career, whatever it's going to be, bring me? And that's when I came up with those 4 things. I want to travel because I'd never really traveled. I was always tied to my son Jason or to my business or something. I wanted glamour because I love glamour. I was brought up, you know, everything that sparkles and twinkles. I always said if I wasn't born a girl, I'd probably be a drag queen today. And my 3rd objective was people, because I'm a people person. I wanted to make sure I wasn't sitting alone in an office. And number 4 was money based on my skill level, not a ceiling, a corporate ceiling or another dictum that says you can only make this in this industry. I wanted to work as hard as I could, knowing I had no financial glass ceiling. So I looked at the 4 objectives and I looked at the list, the eclectic list of all my talents, hobbies, and interests, and I didn't find an answer. It took an entire year of looking at the paper, putting it down, looking at the paper, putting it down, and then finally one day getting that aha. And that aha was about opening the spa, which was not it, which led me to meeting plan, which was not it, which led me to speaking, which was it. So that's a process. Not a very sophisticated one, but that was my process.
It's a real process. And that's what these talks are about, is about real things, you know. And what I would say to some people, because not everyone would have the luxury to not work for a year and be able to just do that process, is you got to do what you got to do, you know, like.
Wait. There's a caveat to what you just said.
Okay.
That year, even though I said I took a year, I was embezzled out of every dime I had from the sale of the business and my life savings.
Oh my gosh.
So when you talk, yeah, I don't know if you knew that. So at the time I was looking for a new career, a new job, I had lost everything. And what did I do? You get your ego out of the way. I was selling chocolates. I was doing marketing for a health club. I was working all the time, and I'd go out on my lunch break or when I got home and make my phone calls to build my speaking business. That's what I was doing. So it wasn't that I had a luxury of a year at all. It was just the opposite.
And I think those are the things that we're going to have to do at this time. Like, we're going to have to do things that maybe, you know, that our ego might tell us, oh, we have too much education for that. Or, oh, I was a senior manager and now I'm going to go back to that. Like, this is the time when we're we're going to have to get our hands dirty. We're going to have to let the ego go aside, and we're going to have to really be creative, because the way to solve the problem at this time is going to be with creativity and with, like, you know, clarity, and doing going out and hustling. Like, this is the time of the hustle, you know, even though I don't always love that word, but because I don't believe it's sustainable. It's a sustainable way. I don't think you build your career all on hustle, but I think as you pivot, there is that time when you need that hustle in there. You need to be able to pick up the phone, make the phone calls, talk to people. They say no today, tomorrow could mean maybe, then maybe turns into a yes. Like, you have to just keep on, stay focused and keep on going, like keep on doing it.
You know, it's funny because lots of times when people ask me the question, well, what do you think are some of the attributes that made you successful? One of them I say is tenacity. I am like a, wait, the line from my
like a dog on a bone. Like,
no, let me quote from my one woman show. Let me see if I can remember the line. What's the difference between a Rottweiler and a Jewish mother? A Rottweiler will eventually let go. Okay, so that's me. I am calling you till you die or I do. I mean, that's kind of where.
You got to hear that, people. You have to hear that. Hear what Mikki's saying. It is that. It's that. What I talk about, it's repetition and consistency. Repetition and consistency create success or excellence. And
it's not now. That's all. It's
right.
It's not now. And so tenacity, I think, is one of those things. And also what you said, Lavin, it's creativity. And for all the people listening going, I'm not creative, that's ridiculous. We're all born creative. We're not all the Picassos and Beethovens of the world, but we're all born creative. It's digging deep and finding what you love, and doing what you love eventually works out to be your business or your passion. And that's where your success, and getting that ego out of the way. I have been humbled by that more times in my life than I can imagine. And it was a valuable lesson because it served me so well. And I can empathize with everybody with what they're going through right now because I feel like I've been in those places.
You,
And
I mean, Nikki, you
I
had
have
a lot of curveballs,
a lot of,
big ones, like tragedy, like big deals, you know?
yeah. No different than anybody else and what they're going through. But I think if you strip away mine and everybody else's, you still come down to the bare bones of what it takes to be successful. And it's those things that we're all blessed with. It's the creativity, it's the tenacity, it's that stick to it. It's doing what you have to do when you don't want to do it. That's kind of really sums it up.
And, you know, I think another thing for me is, because people say, oh, well, when I'm doing what I love to do, then I have a good attitude. And I say at times like this, you got to dig down and you have to like do things that maybe you don't love to do, but do it with enthusiasm, because it's that's what I believe in my heart breaks somebody away. Like, I have done some jobs in my life that I haven't loved. I mean, you know, I've waitressed a lot. I mean, I did what I had to do when I was young. But one thing I remember somebody telling me when I worked at Carlson Charlie's, you walk in here and you look like the happiest person. And I'm thinking, you know, because I can always find, first of all, I love people and I love to connect with people. So even if I was just getting enthusiastic about being able to connect with people for those 4 hours while I'm reading tables, that's what I focused on. And I think at times like this, it's like attitude is a really big part of it. And to be able to somehow find that way to, you know, love what you do, even when you maybe aren't, it's not the thing you're the most passionate about at that time, but find those things that can actually change your vibration, change your energy field. So you're not doing it like, you know, with frustration and wishing you weren't doing that. And you're not doing it with a low vibration, but you're doing it like enthusiasm is such a high vibration. And who knows, like somebody will see you while you're there and be like, wow, that girl has got, because this is what happened to me all the time. I was waiting tables and got more job offers because the people that you're waiting the tables, they were like, wow, you've got such a positive attitude and you're so, you know, you do what you're doing great or whatever. It was really more my attitude because trust me, my waitressing skills were horrible. I mean, really not good. So I think at times like this, it is connecting into that as well.
It is definitely an attitude and a sense of humor and not taking yourself so seriously. And there was one other thing that I really wanted to add that might be of value. You know, lots of times I hear from, I've been in creative fields, you know, as a dancer, as a speaker, these are all creative fields. And I remember even as a dancer, people saying, how do you do it? You know, I still running Miss Lucy's School of the Dance and you're doing all this. And the same thing with the speaker. Because here's the pattern that I've noticed. Speakers will say, I just want to speak. I don't want to do the business. Dancers will say, I just want to dance. I don't want to do the business. And here's my philosophy. I was not a dance school teacher. I was a businesswoman running a dance school. I was a businesswoman running a catering business. I'm a businesswoman running a speaking business. So first, it always has to be, you've got to learn. Don't say you don't want to do it. You have three choices. I tell this to my Vistage members all the time. Either learn it, hire it, or delegate it. That's it. There are no more choices. Yeah. Pick one of those because you have to do business if you want to stay alive, make money, and find something you love to do.
Right.
You just do.
I mean, like, that's why I feel like with me, with Equinox, I was so lucky because, you know, there were three of us and we each had like a different skill set and we each had a different passion and we each had a different, you know, expertise or brilliance or whatever, because I could never do what my brother Danny did. Like I could have never, like I didn't, I mean, I guess I could have if I got myself knowledge, but I never felt that within me, you know, like the money and the investments and doing the whole real estate deals. I remember going out and just trying to get a 1-bedroom apartment in New York City and how daunting that was, let alone trying to negotiate with these sharks to get a 40,000 square foot. Like that was just not my lane, you know? So it is true. You have to, you know, either have partners or, you know, bring somebody else in that has that skill set that you could collaborate with.
Yeah, you have to know what your strengths are and you have to surround yourself with people who are not of your strengths. Or you have, and the other thing I found, if I don't like doing something, I don't want to do it. I do what I love. And people say, well, why don't you do this? Well, I don't like doing that. Well, you can make a lot of money. That drives me. What drives me is what makes me happy, what I love doing, what I feel that is a benefit, or to be the best version of myself. And that's not always what other people think I should do. I always say, don't should on me. And that's what I mean by that.
Yeah. So, Mikki, even though you have this very successful business with your speaker school today, I know, and with your own speaking, like things are shifting now. Like, how are you adapting to, you're having to pivot as well. Share a little bit about your personal pivots in business at this time.
The best compliment I ever got was no grass grows under my feet. And I like to think that's still true. As soon as this happened, I thought, the first month it happened, I had all my jobs canceled or get rescheduled. I thought, okay, this is not acceptable. What do I have to do? I've never been a fond person of technology. I've never thought I'm good at it. I had a lot of limiting beliefs around what I can or can't do, which I'm finally getting control over that. And I actually pivoted. I looked at all my services. I said, I can do virtual speeches, and I did that. I said, okay, I'm going to do speaker school virtually. Why not? So everything that I was doing, I was already coaching virtually all the time because most of my clients are all over the world. So I was used to using Zoom or Skype in that regard. But I kept thinking of the limiting beliefs people would have that were stuck and weren't moving forward. And I had no time for that. I just didn't. So I just jumped in. I thought, what's the worst thing that can happen? I've always think that. And my first virtual presentation, giving a speech, it was 3 hours long. I can't tell you how many things went wrong technologically. And I adapted, and I felt so good when it was over. Not about how great my speech was. I just felt so good about how I adapted in real time. And people saw that. And I think that's even more important. And that goes back to that authenticity piece. This stuff happens. And you just deal with it, but don't let that stop you from doing it just because you're afraid of how it's going to turn out. I was like that for about a week, and then I jumped in full force and adapted everything.
Right. No, I remember when you invited the goddesses on to do the Zoom, yes. You were like, I'm learning how to do this. So this could just be part of
practice. I wanted to practice breakout rooms.
And at that moment, I'm like, all right, I'm in. Because I need to practice too. It was just like, and plus it was just great to connect with everybody.
In case anybody doesn't know about the goddess, I celebrate my birthdays in a big way. And my big birthday, 30 friends on a private yacht for a week in Croatia. And Lavinia is one of my goddesses. Amazing time, huh? Amazing.
So much fun. I mean, that's what it's really about, right? Like being able to.
Life. Absolutely, in a big way.
So talk a little bit about authenticity. And like you said, like, I don't know if we said this, but I think this all the time because your slogan really is be outrageous. It's the only place not crowded.
Right.
And when I think about that, like I think about that saying, especially that I mentor a lot of young women, it's like, when I sit with that, I think, okay, like, you know what, when you're going to be outrageous and you're going to know who you are, it's like understanding who you are, like every edge of you. Like really go to the edges to really, because so often we kind of live in our little family of origin, like the conditioning that we have, and we've kind of just maybe change our style a little bit depending on the way our mom dressed or the way the vacations. And like when you're really starting getting in touch with your real authentic self, I mean, you're kind of exploring out in edges that at times aren't maybe even comfortable. But you're starting, and then it's like doing that and then having the courage to like not fit in. I mean, we talked a little bit about how that became a brand, but I have to believe that there was a negative side to that as well.
Oh.
So like, just talk to us a little bit about that, but more importantly, and how you dealt with that. Like the essence of that.
Yeah, I talked about this a lot with different people on different occasions, that there's prejudice in this world, prejudice around skin color, around ethnicity, around gender, around religion. I feel I have been prejudiced or experienced that my entire life. It's prejudice against being outside the norm, outside the box, being flamboyant, being outrageous, but it's always been who I am. And I was always comfortable with it. And it was coming to terms with the fact And this is true, that has probably cost me in certain situations, and I'm okay with that. My first website, I have to tell you, when my Vistage members refer someone to the group, they warn them before, because they know they're going to go to my website, and they warn them ahead of time. Trust me, she's got a lot of credibility. She's smart. She's successful. So don't judge when you get to her website. And now my website is so much calmer. Do you remember when my website used to play the song, "Oh, Mikki, You're So Fine," with me in a winking cartoon? Imagine the people in their offices who went to that website. And I had people over the years say, you know, you've got to change your image. You have no idea how many people will not hire you because of that. And I was okay with that, because I am true to who I am, and that's who I am. And if they don't want to hire me based on that, then we're probably not meant for each other. So has it cost me? Yes. Do I know? No. Do I care? No. I've been successful in my own way without compromising who I am. And that still works for me. And if it doesn't work for other people, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
But there is one story I want you to share, because it's a story that I really believe shows a lot about who you are, but it also helps people to understand something. And tell them a little bit about your Hall of Fame Susan Lucci story.
Oh, that I was nominated for like 20, I don't know how many years, 20 years or so. Yeah, and a lot of it had to do with my acceptance in this professional speaking world. I was outside the box. You know, I remember showing up at my first meeting. I know there was snickers, like, really? She's going to make it? And I experienced a lot of that in my early years for a lot of different reasons. And it came full circle when I got to do my 7-minute acceptance speech into the Hall of Fame. I get to finally say my piece in a very classy way, but I got my message across. I think I referred to the guy who sent me a really nasty note when I was in the Wall Street Journal, and I was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, and they used me as for the article that they were going to do. And the guy who wrote the article didn't write a lot of nice things about the professional speaking industry. And this one guy wrote something to me about that I affected the profession in some way. So I remember being on stage accepting the induction into the Hall of Fame, saying, I don't think I used his name, or I might have said that I got this letter, and I said, "Who's laughing now, Bob?" And the whole crowd burst into laughter. So it was, you know, it came full circle. And again, a lot of it goes back to Mom, hold your head up high. You're enough. You're who you are. And there'll be people that are not comfortable with that, and that's okay. And I experienced it my whole life, and I'm still here and still doing okay. So I guess it is okay.
You keep on reinventing yourself. I mean, it's really, so let's just talk about failure.
Okay.
Only, not that I love failure, but it's part of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's actually part of being alive. Like I always say, my thing is, it's not win or lose, it's win or learn. Like, because everything teaches us something. And even though, especially for younger people, they don't necessarily always feel that, but take us a little bit through, like, a little bit about, was failing an option? How did you pivot at those moments? What was the mindset at that? Like, I think we have a clear set that you just kept going, like you were nonstop. But I gotta believe at times you had those moments where it was tiring. Like,
yeah, and I'm sure there were so many, but I'll give you the most glaring or the biggest example. When I had the health club and the dance studio, I got tired of sending everybody to all the local stores to buy their equipment and their clothing and everything. So I thought, and now I'm in this entrepreneurial mindset. I'm going, you know, see a need, fill it. Okay, I'm going to open a store and be the one to sell it. I hated it. I'm sorry for any retailers listening, but I hated retail. I just found it just not in my wheelhouse in any way. And I eventually, that was to me, you know, I don't even use the word failure, Lavinia. I use the word experiences, because it's always, what did you learn? What would you do different or better? And what I learned is, don't ever do anything because of the money. Do it because you love it. And that passion, that energy, that positive attitude will always be with you. And that one time, and it failed. I closed it. I lost money on it. I said, okay, this was stupid. What did I learn from this? And that was a big lesson. And I guess when I talk about failure, I talk about all the experiences in my life where I constantly say, what did I learn? What would I do different? What would I do better? So I don't think there's failures for anyone. There are experiences. And if you make the mistake over and over again, that's something else. Then in the vernacular, then you're stupid.
Yeah. You know, I tell young people about finding their lane. And it's really, for me, I say, and I believe very often your lane finds you.
Yes.
Because I just, everything you're talking about, it's like your lane finds you. But, very often there's young entrepreneurs like that just are doing something, and they're doing it and they're working, and on paper, it looks amazing. Their brand looks amazing. Their design looks good. Their marketing is on point. They seem passionate about it, and they're not getting anywhere. And I know
lane.
So that's like my thing, when it's like, I always say, like, when you're in your lane, it looks something like this. You're creating, you're doing, you're working, and you move along, and you're working, and you move forward. And then you're working, and you move forward, even if it's just an inch, but there's this forward motion. When you're sort of not in your lane, it's like you work, you go nowhere. You work, you go nowhere. You work, you go nowhere. It's like just rejection. And like, where is that moment? Because there's one thing to saying, I'm not going to give up, like, a Jewish mom. And when it's like also a realization, like, dang, I'm just not in my lane here. Like, like, how do we help people differentiate between the two? Because I see that a lot,
owning that store, that was definitely a wake-up call that I was not in my lane. That was something that I springboarded from and referred back to all the time when I'm getting that feeling, that gut feeling, something's not right here. I don't like this. It's not moving forward. It's not affecting anybody else, or it's affecting me, and all the things. And I think it's different for all of us, because we all have different things that inspire us or make us do what we do. And if we don't find those things within ourselves and know what they are clearly, we'll be doing things we shouldn't be doing all the time. I'm very clear, as I know you are, on what makes me happy, because and how I affect other people, and how that's a chain reaction. It's, one of the things I noticed, just to deviate for a second, is a pattern in my life. I was a professional dancer. I was on stage getting applause. Loved it. Then after that, I started choreographing and teaching. And that old cliche, which I hate, those who can do and those who can't teach, that is so wrong, absolutely so wrong, because I got more out of teaching than I did out of performing, because now I get to stand in the wings and watch you get the applause, and knowing that I had a piece of that. And I have found, even now with my executive speech coaching and my speaker school and everything, that's that same feeling that I love. Okay, yeah, I'm on stage, I get applause, I get good money, all that stuff, and that's cool. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But what really just keeps me really excited is seeing you do this. You've been through speaker school, seeing people succeed at all different levels. It doesn't have to be high, just someone writing to me, I was just in your 2-hour course and I went and gave a speech and I used those things and I killed it. I mean, so gratifying for me. I have found my sweet spot, and it's full cycle to my first career as a dancer, then a teacher, choreographer, to a speaker, and now coaching others and running speaker schools. That's when you're in your lane.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Mikki, this is a question I've just sort of asked everybody, because we only have a few minutes left, is like, what prediction would you make? Like, everybody's predicting what this pandemic, the shifts that are going to really happen in business, especially. Have you given it any thought on like how you think what is going to hold? What things are actually going to be transformational in business, or where something is just going to be a moment till, there's herd immunity, and then we're back to, certain things will go back to normal, and some things won't, and have you just, you have a lot of history on when things happened, in different crashes and how things sort of ebbed and flowed. And I would just be curious to see what you think is going to some predictions you might have around this.
I have a two-part answer to that one. I think, again, as I said, it was an accidental brand. I think I accidentally learned this lesson. When the recession hit, 9/11, speakers were going out of business left, right, and center because nobody was flying, nobody was holding meetings, any of those things. And I was doing fine because I had what I call MSI, multiple streams of income. I wasn't just a speaker. I had coaching, I had product, I had the speaker's school, I had keynote camp. And I realized then that is the key to something like this. The same thing now. If you're just a speaker and you can't fly, what do? You either adapt or you die. We call it the T-Rex rule in my group, adapt or die. So I changed to virtual because I'm not dying. But again, I have other income streams. I have other things that I do. So I think diversity in business in different ways is going to be a big predictor for the future. With all my Vistage executives, my CEOs, we're now working to look at what are the opportunities for the future. Is it acquisitions of certain companies that'll be available for acquisitions? Is it in real estate development? Is it in developing new product lines? Some of them have pivoted by looking at the products that are needed during the pandemic, like my manufacturers, and shifted to actually creating things that they could make money on during the pandemic. So it goes back to what you said, Lavinia, about being creative. It goes back to looking for opportunities, and it goes back to saying, how do I leverage my skills in more than just one way and be in one lane when I can be in five and save myself from anything else down the road, because nobody knows what the future holds. Nobody.
So true. Well, Mikki, I just want to thank you. I mean, whenever I even get the opportunity to hear you speak, I'm thinking, okay, I hope my girls were taking all the takeaways, because you just, every time you speak, I have all these takeaways and new things for me to like work on and just understand about myself and how to help people. And I just, from the first time I saw you speak on that stage, I was moved and inspired and touched. And 30 years later, it's actually even more so. I admire you. I love what you do. I love everything. I love your glitter. I love your rhinestones. I love your sparkle. And I also love that you're building a whole new personal life as well. And you're just you just never stop growing. They're just, everything about you is just so positive and just so forward and so expansive and so full of life and joy. And you have these experience lists instead of bucket lists. And it's I'm always all right, I need to make sure I get Mikki's experience list, because her experience lists are just so full, So
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking time to have a conversation with us today. And I just wish you all the best.
Lavinia, I love you to pieces. You'll be my goddess forever. You were from the day I met you. You still are in so many ways. And this was so fun. This was just the topping on the cake, the frosting on the cake, the best part of my day. Thank you so much. Love being with you, girl.
Okay. All right. Bye, everyone. We'll see you on Saturday.